Da, 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 da.
Indeed.
Hello. This is the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast, #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
I like your gray. Is it gray?
Not this, no, it's blue.
Yeah. Oh, it looks gray.
Interesting.
Whatever shade it is, it looks good on you.
So listening to the podcast, you can guess the color.
Huh? That could be a whole nother level of people commenting on the color of Barry's shirt. Mine's black, looks black, matches my little hat.
Mm-hmm.
So today, this is such an open-ended, fun question. Do you know your partner? Inquiring minds want to know. I loved the picture. I thought the picture was very inquisitive looking on the promo. So there's so many levels, and it's not just we like Chinese food and Mel Brooks movies. There's so many levels to finding out, do you really know them, and how do you get to know them, and what is the process while you're dating, since the majority of our show is about dating, but certainly getting into relationships and what to do then, to figure out who are they really, and to have them find out who are you really, and how do you unveil yourself, how do you share each other over time. And wow, I just love this title so much. I think it's underserved in the dating area.
Well, to make it more complicated.
Not us.
No, not us. No. But the thing about it is, when you say, do you know your partner, that beyond the obvious things about getting to know certain like preferences, views, opinions, there's so many other layers beneath that, which we'll get into. But one of those things, the realization is that, frankly, if you know everything about your partner, you're going to get bored. So hopefully you're with somebody who's always, you're discovering new things all the time. So you won't get to know them right up front, but hopefully after time, you'll learn even new things about your partner. So it's almost like you want the broad strokes sort of locked in early enough to know if this person you want to be with. But then the refinements and the polishing become entertaining, maybe.
Yes, Mr. Sammy. I don't know. He's had a thing lately. I hear you, hon. I hear you. Usually that makes him stop. So sorry. He's so loud.
That's right. He does his thing.
He's a big cat, so he's very loud. He's just announcing that he's arrived. Yes, well, very important. And I had this conversation last night with a client because he's now dating two people, getting a little more serious to make a decision between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the best news I can tell you is that I have talked about these two couples a lot. My brother and sister-in-law, who we've been married 50 years in January, and my friend that I go riding with every week. She and her husband have married 60 years this year, and they never run out of things to talk about, ever.
Right. Yeah.
They live together. They've had opportunities to, my brother and sister-in-law actually still run a company together. And they have interesting lives, and they bring their interests back to the marriage.
Yeah.
And what's really fun is they both keep going, gosh, they had this different perspective. I know so much about them, and wow, they brought this different perspective, which is what your hope is. And as you said, to form the groundwork so that you know that you're both going to be inquisitive, you're both going to be open, you're both going to want to keep sharing things, you're both going to go, well, I don't feel that way, and why do you feel that way? And explain that to me and not get wigged out about it.
Yeah.
To always be curious, always be interested, always wanting to learn more about who the other person is, for sure.
Absolutely. And even more of a spin on this as well is like, if you really go look in the mirror, how well do you know ourselves? So if you don't know if you don't know, for example, how you respond in certain situations or circumstances, then how are you going to tell your partner that if you don't know about yourself even? And the same thing for them. If they are the same way, there are things you can discover about your partner that different situations will reveal, which could be good or bad. But the truth is you won't know until you get there. And so again, this is talking about when you're out dating. And at the beginning, you really can only lean into the broad strokes. Yeah. And then trust, hope, intend that all the other stuff that shows up later on works for you, because you won't know until then.
And boy, Barry, we've talked about it a lot, that this is our foundation, that first you figure out who you are. You
Yes.
know, what keeps you upright? What makes you happy? How do you generate yourself? How do you re-regulate yourself when you get out of regulation, when you get upset about something, when something just rubs you the wrong way? Or me, no, not enough food or not enough sleep. I so know that about me. I'm like a 2-year-old that way. That how do you normally respond? And there'll be things that come up that are unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And at least you have sort of a track record of, boy, when I start feeling this way, when I start feeling mad or nervous or frustrated or stupid or made fun of, or they're mean, or whatever it is that you've experienced in your life already, to have a sense of, yeah, I know I react like that. And what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to explain it to the other person? And then how do they react when you do that too? And how do they react when they do their thing? And I love having those conversations with people that I'm getting to know. And it's not, do you like your mother? Right now, you can ask people, what do you do for the holidays? What kind of people get together? What sorts of things happen? Do you have traditions? And then listen, because you will hear a lot about what goes on in their family if you just ask that sounding very benign question, huh?
Absolutely. And that's the thing, frankly, that makes it so, I guess in some ways, the adventure of it is because you do want to save some of their uncertainty until later in the relationship to get to know and discover about things about them that you didn't know before. And yes, there are certainly circumstances, situations with family, with other people, where how they act is different from what you're used to. So that can be another place, again, how to discover more about who they are and how well you know them by what their circumstances are. Because there are certain values you might know about your partner pretty early on, are going to be the way they're going to be all the time. But there are also going to be things that are left field that won't match that. And it is a level, again, and in some ways, I'd say the best way of putting it is that once you do get to know the broad strokes, the key responses, the key ways that they think of things that you match with, you feel good about, there's going to be this uncertainty and also this trust that has to be there as well, that you trust that everything else is going to work out as well, no matter how rare the situation shows up that it's going to trigger this certain behavior from them, whatever that is. So it is an interesting choice point and a quandary in a way that you want to be in a place that you can trust that, because otherwise it's like, why bother being in a relationship? Just stay single if you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
But if you want to be in a relationship, do it the right way, which is what we talk about a lot in our work as well.
For sure. So how do you deal with that? And one of the things that is really important to talk about in this subject is what makes me feel safe to start sharing more of me. Because what I made a determination when I was younger and was in charge of a bunch of departments, I was working and I didn't talk about my personal life, and people made up so much stuff about me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had time to eat and sleep with all the stuff people were making up about me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that didn't work. And telling everybody a bunch of stuff, because I don't know if that's safe, that wouldn't work. So what I learned to do was to tell the truth a little bit. I'd tell them a little bit of, this is what we did this weekend. We saw this movie, or, we went out to dinner with friends, and it would like placate them. And that was really the truth, but it certainly wasn't, we had a horrible fight, or, we did other things. I didn't talk about that. But it turned out I didn't need to talk about that with these surface people, and certainly not people at work. But I now am very good at that. So what I need to learn is, I do always tell people, I'm going to tell you the absolute truth. I'm just going to tell you more of it as we go along. And what works for me is when they listen to what I say and they go, oh, okay. And there's no big wow, or ooh, and disapprovaling. I love questions. I'm really fine with questions. But if there's a big reaction and they don't get over it, well, they're not going to hear more of my truth.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the thing that is the gift of this, of the possibility, is just being the place where you get to be pleasantly surprised by the next thing you discover about this person. Like, wow, that was cool. So glad to know this about them now, but didn't need to know that up front. And it's that level of like need to know certain before you decide about the relationship. You said about your friend who's like, choose two different dates. The tipping point of that is really when you have got enough good content and good material that you know about this person that goes, yes, they fit, or no, they don't, sort of thing is kind of the crux of it. But then once you are in, and as we're talking about, there's so much more beyond that point that is so ideally fun to discover and surprising and exciting and wonderful. There's a word for it, not wonder making. No, wrong word. It just fills you with wonder. I'll put it that way around.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits of this. That's why they were talking about it in this way. Is that when you get to know your partner, again, you will never know everything about your partner, hopefully, because you never know everything about yourself, because you'll discover new things about yourself as you go through life anyway. It's part of the joy of life. So the journey of discovery and to get to know your partner and to keep learning more and wanting to be more comfortable with knowing who they are is the journey that we're on in relationship. That's ideally the way it should be.
And certainly my goal always, and was certainly happened with my late husband, I really looked forward to our next time and what was I going to learn about him?
Mm-hmm.
And what was I going to feel comfortable sharing about me? Every time I found that. And it's very enticing and very draws me in. And that's one of the things that makes me feel really comfortable and safe to share more and more about me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really helpful is if they're willing to share more and more about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do men, Mr. Barry, since you have that chromosome to speak of,
yes,
that,
indeed.
what makes men feel more in general, not specifically you necessarily, but men in general too, feel more open to talking about, this is who I really am to a woman?
One thing to say that men don't like is when our woman is being critical of us. That undermines our feeling of trust, of safety, of feeling comfortable as well. When she's demeaning us or putting us down or saying things negative about us. So the opposite of that will be to be inspired about us and happy and want to inquire and celebrating us in a way. I mean, frankly, for most men, it's one of the simple pleasures that makes us feel close to a woman is when she is happy for who we are and what we're about. I mean, that's one reason for a lot of men, we have this desire to do things for our partner so she'll be happy about what we did. It's really so that we feel cherished and prized. So that perspective from our women in general, is one that really adds to the conversation. And it's even as simple as being asked questions directly rather than obliquely, and also being thanked when we do things. I mean, the niceties sound so simplistic, but the reality is those key things can change the paradigm of the relationship and really warm things up. So really that sense of asking directly from a place of like you learn something about somebody, you want to know more, and it shows that you've been listening. That's another thing too, because it means that we feel validated. So those things are really important.
Thank you. It's so happy to, I say this all the time, and it's so nice to have it come out of a man's mouth too. And in a piece of that, I think too, is don't badmouth men to a man. Even if you're not saying it about him, even if you're saying positive things about him, when you badmouth men in general, we women take it personally. Of course, men are going to take it personally. If there's some man that did something bad and you want to get feedback from him, or you need protection from this person, from the person you're talking, great. Tell him that. Too often women, and I used to be one of them that did this. I still am a woman, but I don't do this anymore. That broad stroke of, men are just impatient. Men just interrupt. Men are all about themselves. To say that to a good guy that's sitting across from you that you're wanting to get to know, why does he want to tell you anything about him, since he happens to be one of those Y chromosomes that it sounds to him you're including him in this conversation?
Absolutely.
Even though we generally are not.
Yeah.
We haven't made up our mind about you yet. We seem to have made up our mind about a bunch of your species, and it's unfair to, I think it's just awful to say that to you.
Yeah, because we will tend to think we're part of that assumption. So no, it's not cool at all. And that's the other part is, and this is true for both genders, frankly, is that when you meet somebody of the opposite sex, to speak heterosexually, your opinion of that person based on the experience with them ideally shouldn't paint everybody with the same brush. Now, we talked about before about relationship patterns you repeat because you didn't do the work. So you might meet somebody who's similar because of the way your own wiring is, but that's because you've been choosing that way because you didn't do the work to change your lens and focus to shift your way out of that paradigm. But in truth, just recognizing that each man is different, each woman is different. So when you're out dating, because one man did you wrong, doesn't mean all men will. Of course, if you hold the space that they will, then you might meet other men who will, because the way you wire. So again, do the work in between relationships like we talk about. But knowing that the person you meet is unique, is an individual, means you've got more of a possibility with this person to discover something unique about them. So why not go in there with your eyes open to seek out that magical thing about them you didn't know before?
Yeah. So the other thing that really opens me up is when somebody asks me a question. I've said it before, I love questions that nobody's asked me before. I mean, how would you know that, right? Sitting across the table from me.
Right.
That makes me have to think, and that feels they think positively about me when they ask the question. So recently I was asked, I had to really stop and think, what was the most surprising thing I've learned from coaching people? And what was the most surprising thing I learned about myself from coaching people? I had to stop and think about it. I loved that question a lot. And it made me really think about it a lot, because I have so many things I would have imagined I said. And when I stopped and thought about it, I came up with some additional answers. Because one of our challenges with what we do is that people can have preconceived ideas that we're hypercritical, or we can read their minds, or we're going to tell them what they're doing wrong while we're out on this meeting with them, which is so far from the truth of who we really are. We're just not those kind of people, Barry and I, at all. And so to have somebody who not only seems to not think that, but then asks me questions about it, that was super fun. I liked that a lot. So I learned he's not threatened by what I do. He really wants to hear more about it. And he was really interested in hearing my side of it. He hadn't made up his mind about my side of it, because we often make a lot of assumptions about the opposite sex, period, which is so wrong. I love that sigh, because it's the truth.
Yeah, it is.
So I loved that. It made, because I always look at the broader thing when somebody asks me a question, and also what am I looking for when I ask a very specific question. I really am looking for lots of answers, like the holiday thing. So tell me about your sigh, Barry.
Well, it's the assumptive level. It's that sort of when we make up stuff and we don't actually go in with like an empty. It's like going with an empty cup to be filled up rather than going with a full cup you can't fill up. It's that sort of mindset. And obviously with the work you and I do, we spend a lot of time being receptive to the person who's in front of us to discover who they are and what they're about, rather than coming in with preconceived notions, because we know better. Ideally, if you're going on a date, the same skill set. It's like, for us both, I know for us both, I can't speak directly for you, but I think from what we talked about, but when I go on dates, I definitely go in to the best of my ability with an open mind and clear invitation to discover this person who they are, rather than make assumptions up front. Because I don't want to be trapped into a mindset that is inaccurate. And so the dating process, the dating experience, is really where you get to know somebody who didn't know before. So why not go in with a clean slate with them, rather than bringing in a bunch of preconceived notions and assumptions or baggage from your past relationships, where you think, oh, men are going to be the same because your past 3 relationships are like that, so the next one's going to be like that too, or women, whichever one you are. It's effort, yes, but the benefits of going in with a clean slate and being clear is such a powerful place to be.
The effort is well worth. The squeeze is worth the juice.
Indeed. Well, truth is worth the squeeze, and that is, yeah.
So when we come back, we can talk about how do you not assume? And what can you do to guard against that, being the giver or the receiver of assumptions?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
boy, that leads us down not a good road.
We have lots to talk about that. Yes, for sure. So we'll see you back after the break.
Right back.
See you in a moment.
Hi there, it's Christine and Barry back at Let's Talk Dating, and today we're talking about, do you know your partner? Inquiring minds want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So before the break, Barry brought up about the challenge that we have when we make assumptions
Mm-hmm.
from our past experience, from our point of view, and what's one of the things that both we have to work on as coaches, that when we ask somebody a question, we sit in a wonder. What are they going to say? I have no idea. And often they say something completely different than I thought they were going to say, which is just a delight. I really like it. Even if
Absolutely.
you say things that you could expect because you've talked to hundreds of people now. And it's something that you need to make a very conscious thought about. So because you and I practice it so much with our clients, we get to practice it with dating, but it is a little different for sure.
Indeed, it is. Yes, absolutely. No, the thing also is that we've got a tendency oftentimes to stay within our own comfortable little arena, comfort zone, if you want to call it that. And I was on the phone last night with a possible one. I'm not sure if we're going to be a date or not, but basically, I was matched up with her by a mutual friend and said, "You two should talk to each other. There might be something there." So we had a conversation. Great conversation. I don't sense any like juice, so to speak, at this moment. But I'm also surprised by where she comes from, in a way of like things she knows that I didn't know, and things she talks about that I didn't learn about. And so it was informative and educational for me personally, just in that conversation.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I love about these first dates, in air quotes, is I don't know this person yet. And so there can be such joy, at least there is for me, about discovering a new person, discovering new perspective and new viewpoints that I didn't necessarily know before. And yes, sometimes it's things I've heard before, but even in that, there's nuance and difference where I just know there's something different. So the lack of assumption is so much easier because I'm so inquisitive and so curious about what this person brings to the table. So much more fun.
So much more fun. So I think the curious is the operative word for this part. When somebody says something that sounds so off,
Yeah,
different, surprisingly why, to stop, just take a breath, and then say, I'm so curious. What makes you think that or believe that, or I'm so curious why you did that. To lower the energy you have about it until you know more. It might convince you of absolutely not. And it might go, wow, that's a really different perspective. I never thought about it like that. But our immediate reaction often is, yeah, no. I mean, they have no idea, or they're so wrong, or they're not for me. I want people to give it a second or third, I'm curious question.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things, even if somebody completely believes something different than I do, if they can explain to me why, that it's not just they saw it on Facebook or the news or their parents told them, that they have really good reasons. This is why this works in my life. I so admire that. It still might not work in my life, but I am so on their side. I can see. I can't imagine you doing anything else in your life. This is what keeps you upright. Wow. And because of all these things, this is why. And that's another way where you get to learn about this person. So if they are your person, you're like, I so admire, look what you've overcome, or look how you've made adjustments, or you changed your life in this way because that was working and now this was working. I mean, and it's happened because I've stopped and asked that. Really, tell me more about that. And you have to make yourself be open-minded when you do that. You can't be listening with like a quarter of an ear because you know better.
Right. And that is definitely, because the temptation is very easy, having knowing so much stuff. I know for sure for you and I both, it's definitely it's the effort to be open-minded and listening versus knowing we know stuff to it. We make assumptions. But the other part also, and that is the biggest opportunity I found when I've been on a lot of first dates, is oftentimes I know pretty early on, just because of the way I'm wired and what I notice about people, when it's not going to be a match. But it doesn't mean I close the door and walk away straight away. And so what you said is so true. There's a fascination I have to know more about this person and what it is that drives them, what they're looking for, and what's a priority, because it gives me a bigger perspective on things. Because the other part as well with doing this is that the more people you meet, the more diverse experiences you have, then the wider viewpoint you have. And so you carry with you a much more understanding approach to everything and everyone. So the more people you meet, especially with the diametric issues we've been having in this country, politically, other places too, it's sometimes hard to reach across the other side and see how the people view things. And so on a smaller scale, this is talking about dating, of course, but on a smaller scale, to recognize that if somebody's viewpoint is different from your own, it may not be that bad. It's just different. And so what can you learn from that? How can you be with that? You might discover their viewpoint, actually, even though it's not what you want to adopt, it's totally fine as well. And you can have entertain both ideas at the same time. And that's quite a nice place to be in, because it gives you a more expanded viewpoint of what's possible.
Yeah. Being broad-minded
mm-hmm.
in general is good. And certainly when you're at a first meeting with somebody, or you're getting to know them over like the third or fourth date, or even if you're in a committed partnership, remaining open-minded is very important. And it is one of those other big challenges. And it's why you will stay inquiring. It's why you'll stay interested. It's why you'll still continue learning and thrive with somebody who wants to stay open and inquisitive and learning as well. Right. And even if it's that they want to just learn more about the same subject, their job or their schooling, or they're going to still learn more and come back and tell you about it. And especially if it's not something I want to necessarily learn a lot about, I'm really happy to hear them talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun that they're so excited. I was talking to a woman the other day, just casually, not as a client, and she's this great, really cool boyfriend, and she really likes him. She goes, but he really likes talking about golf, and I could care less about golf. And I said, yeah, that's kind of hard, if it's something you're not interested in. So I said, I have two questions, because she said, I'm fine with you asking questions. I said, one, how many things that he's not interested in does he listen of yours? And she went, Mm-hmm. And I said, and how does he look when he's telling you about it? She goes, oh, he's so excited and enthusiastic. I said, so how are you going to be okay with listening to him talking about golf? She decided she was going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not the questions we know to ask ourselves, right?
Right. But it's also that she gets to enjoy bathing in his excitement.
Oh. Because when she really looked at it that way and said, oh my God, it's going to be a half an hour, this many holes. And I said, just watch him tell you the story. Don't listen to the story. You don't care about the story. Watch him. She goes, oh yeah, he just lights up and he's got all this energy. And I go, and what's he going to do with that energy later? Oh yeah, that's a good question too. Exactly. The more fired up he is and the more testosterone is zooming through his body as he's telling you how he made this great shot. She goes, yeah. I said, so no more complaining about, even in your head, because I said, I know you make a face. She goes, of course I make a face. And I said, you're not going to do that anymore because he's fine. He's fine. We'll talk about something that's bad, but this is not a bad thing. So this is when you say, what is it that lights up my partner and how can I encourage it? That's another thing that's really essential as you're getting to know somebody. Ask them, what are you super passionate about in your life? What are you working on right now? What's a thing that you have a goal with or that you just solved? And even if you could care less about it or you don't even understand what they're saying, Are they an enthusiastic person? Do they get fired up? Are they excited? Does it make them happy? They'll probably act the same way when you have something that you are enthusiastic about. That's what you're watching, not, oh my God, he likes talking about golf.
So true. I want to throw another one on the pile because what you said sort of kind of inspired me.
I love inspiring.
About, well, because you said about how we do with that other energy when he's finished he's talking about golf.
Yeah.
So I want to bring sex into the conversation because we do that quite often.
Oh yes.
But in this conversation, in this context, the thing we have a bad habit of doing is assuming we know the whole thing about sex with our partner. Either we bring our own experience from past relationships, or we think there's some way of doing it, and that's what we're going to do it with our partner. That's the way it is. We have a bad habit, and I'm saying we as inclusive, not just saying one gender or the other, don't usually actually explore, ask questions, even say, is this working, or do something different, or saying that's not working, I need to do something different, sort of thing, both sides. So in terms of do you know your partner, sexually, ideally, you never stop learning about your partner. So I want to put it in the mix as well, because frankly, because I know in past relationships, I didn't learn enough and I got really bored and that was where sex went flat. So I know from personal experience where it didn't work out is that sex can be such a great place to play together because like everything else in the relationship, you can learn new things about your partner. And ideally, your partner can learn things about themselves and about you at the same time. So keeping that alive is one of the juicy parts of this.
Yes. You know how much I like talking about sex.
I know.
So glad you brought it up, Barry. Because the other thing is, I've learned men tend to be a little more consistent on a daily basis than women. And I've learned that if you're willing to experiment, the guys really like, well, yeah, I might like that. And I might like that. I'm going to tell you though, as somebody who lives in a woman's body, frequently, I want something completely different. Completely different. Start here and no, now start here. I want this. I want that. And now you're in the middle. I'm like, oh no, I have to change my mind. And what's really cool is the guy goes, oh my God, somebody who actually tells me in a nice way.
Right.
Instead of I'm guessing wrong. And then everybody's a little bored and nothing's really happening for either person. So yeah, don't assume ever. Even people I know who have been together a long time have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
One or the other will bring it up and say, I'd like to shake it up a little and I'd like to try, bondage, or I'd like to try movies or something. Yeah. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means I don't want to eat the same food every day. I mean, do you really want hamburger every day? Or do you even want filet mignon every day? As much as I like that, I wouldn't. I like a variety. So in sex, definitely. What are you in the mood for? Fast today, slow today, more touching, more holding? Let's talk, do you want to start in a shower or a bath? And what do you want to do after? I mean, really have a conversation beforehand and during, and never assume. So if you're getting to know somebody, I tell men a lot, wait, we'll probably give you signs, that we've touched you and now we've allowed you to kiss us. And it's been more of my big thing lately has been keep your tongue in your mouth until we invite it, or give us a little bit and see if we invite more. Don't just stick your as much as I like that, I don't want it first thing.
Right.
Let's do stuff. So,
right.
Oh, please leave a little mystery for just a couple times. So then once we've done that, then, you can see, can you move your hands other places when we have clothes on? And if you finally are going to now have talked, gosh, I think we want to get naked together. What do you like? What do you generally like? Because boy, do I want to find out somebody that wants to know what I like and that they'll tell me what they like. Because men tell me all the time, women want me to guess. They say, I ask and they say, yes. Oh my God, that's such a horrible answer for both people. So don't assume anything. Please tell. And so one of the things I want to find out is somebody that will tell me and wants me to tell them. That's really important for me to find out.
Absolutely. And that is the biggest ego crush experience for men, is definitely from the experiences when she basically expects me to know everything and doesn't want to tell me anything. Oh. And it's almost Because the thing is, there is, and of course, from an ego point of view for us men, we think we need to act like we are the sex master, so we should never need to ask for any help or any guidance or any thoughts because we should know everything. That's the rules. And so for both genders, there's so much more to grow into in relationship and around sex especially, because we do fall in this trap of, if you knew what you were doing, you'd be worth it sort of thing. And it's like, that's the whole point, is that each person's different. As I said at the beginning of this, everyone's different and unique, including the sexual experience as well. So don't assume because the last 3 women you're with, for the men, it worked out a certain way, it's going to work the same way with this one. It might not. And if a woman's been through, or a man's been through trauma, their relationship with sex might be very different from the ones you went with previously. So you've got to be willing, 1, for safety, but 2, for enjoyment, excitement, is to ask questions and navigate through the place of being willing to take feedback and go with it.
Yeah. Both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I love asking, what do you like? Do you like this? Do you want more or something different? Just tell me. And they're like, oh my God, you really want to, please. I mean, my big thing is, who wants to pass up an orgasm? I don't. Probably you don't. Right. If we want to get there, I'll tell you what works for me and you tell me what works for you. I mean, I love experiment. Go right ahead. If you have something you want to try that I've never, okay, I'm game. And then I'll let you know if it works for me or not. Who knows? I may have discovered lots of stuff that way that I liked. And then a few things I was like, yeah, no, hardly ever. Yeah, no, but there's been a couple. Yeah, no. So that's the thing, that if you start out when you're first getting to know somebody, being inquisitive, sharing a little bit at a time, a little more every time, you'll get to sex, which people go, ooh, and be able to share that too, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Yeah. I mean, do you like holding hands? Do you like cuddling? Do you like holding? Do you like foot rubs? I mean, what's the ways that you ease into that? And then what do you like when you're naked? It's really important to talk about.
Yeah, I knew we'd end up here.
Yeah, because don't assume. That's the thing. Do you know your partner? Ask yourself, what do I know about me that I want to share? And what do I want to find out about other person? And I want to keep asking and asking and asking. And the best thing ever is when you have somebody like, I want to learn more. I'm sure there's more. They keep everything they tell me. I want to learn more. Even if it's some of you go, oh, darn, I'm sorry about that. But I still want to know more. I still want to know more. I still see this thing. We'll see if we could work through it. Maybe we can't, but I still want to learn more. I mean, that's exciting. That's energizing. That's when it feels like fun. I mean, the guy last night, like, you told me this would be fun. It really is fun. I go, I know. That's the point. Dating is really supposed to have a high fun quotient to it. It's really supposed to.
It's not a job interview.
No. It's getting to know each other to see, do you want to see each other another time? Do you want to see me again? I mean, I told you about the couple that at their 40th wedding anniversary, they were telling me, we just ask every year, do you want to do this again? And so far we kept saying, yeah, for 40 years.
Yeah.
But so if you do that from the beginning, I want to see you again. Do you want to see me again? What's going to entice us to want to see each other again? That's when you're going to say, I know lots about them and I want to learn more.
Yeah.
Because I think there's lots of people that have been together a long time and they're not really sure about the other person, or they think they are. And then they go, I didn't know that.
No, the trouble is we get into lots of bad habits of assumptions about the other person. And that's when nobody wins. And that's what happens to people who get in a long-term relationship without doing the discovery, like choosing the path of discovery and curiosity and interest. They go past the assumptions and normalness and frankly boredom at some point. So there's no juice there anymore. So start the way you mean to progress. So definitely from the very first date to be a place of inquiry and curiosity to discover what this person's about. And then don't stop doing that for the rest of your relationship, because you never know what you can end up doing that.
Because certainly one of the killers for love is resentment. And when I hear people with that resentment inside of them, it's because, don't they know me? Don't they know what I need? Don't they know this? Don't they know this about me? I used to say that with my friends would introduce me to somebody and I go, I have not told you clearly who I am. I'm going to take that responsibility, I guess, because it's not your job to know so not me. I need to tell you more about me. So when you take it on you, yeah, maybe they don't because you haven't told. You have just assumed. So don't assume that they know about you, even though you think you know about them. Make sure you've told them about you.
Frankly, if you're going to be in the assumption place, why even bother dancing? It's like, no, if you're going to dance, learn new things about the person, be in the inquiry, and just enjoy the newness, because that new relationship is a new person. It is a new way of being, a new possibility, and a new way for you to be if you want to try it on, so you can be in a different relationship than you ever have before because you said yes to this.
Yeah. Because you say, I want something new and different. Well, then stop treating them like the old people.
Exactly.
Assumption will just, it makes an ass of you and me. That's really what they say about that word.
Indeed.
So leave assumption out of the room when you're having a conversation, especially with somebody new.
Yeah.
I dated a guy kind of in the middle of the time between my divorce and marrying Tony. And he showed up with his big muscle car to pick me up for the first date. And I loved it. It had, like primer paint on it, and he was still working on it, but I loved it. I said, oh, can I drive it? Because I'd known lots of people that had really fun, loud, interesting cars. And he was so intrigued that I liked that the next time he picked me up in his Porsche, but he never picks anybody up the first time in his Porsche. So you can't make assumptions about anybody.
No.
No, because if somebody would have gone, this beat up car and it's loud and it's not even all the way painted, and he was still working on the seats. And he said lots of women one of them just wouldn't even get in his car. It's terrible. And I was just so intrigued. I wanted to drive it because it was a 6-speed. And I was like, oh my God, I've only driven a 5-speed. This is so fun. So then I got the honor of riding in his Porsche too.
There you go.
I know. But there's a big assumption right there.
Yep. But that's the thing about all this we've said, the whole thing is that you, as a dating participant, you may well be surprised beyond what you expected if you're willing to go in with your eyes open and your willingness to be inquiring and asking and learning about the person versus making assumptions about who they are from the first moment you walk in the door. The assumptions, the death of healthy, creative, fun relationships. Inquiry and curiosity is where it really starts to be juicy.
I heard a quote the other day that said, it takes a while for grapes to become wine. Isn't that a cool quote? You just let it ferment and grow. It's really a ripe relationship. I think that's really something to consider, that you don't really know. You don't know. Even though you think you know, you don't really know.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens that I talk about frequently, you do too, that when you now get in this healthy, happy, long-term relationship, there might be some old shit that's going to come up that can only get healed in a relationship. And boy, if you do not have a good foundation of having these kind of conversations with each other, everybody goes, oh, the relationship's over. It's horrible. And it must be the relationship. No, it could be this wonderful healing partnership at this moment. Hopefully not both of you are going through it at once. That's a little harder. And to have somebody that's a safe place for you to land while you're going through that, it's the best.
Yeah. Of course, that will also be a good time to seek out some help and guidance from you or me, frankly. So once they're in that relationship, you don't just depend upon your partner to fix it, but you get someone who's professional to help you, like one of us.
They come back. It's really nice. When I see them show up, I go, oh, because I warn them, this might happen. The other thing I wanted to mention that I hear men say that keeps them from talking more about who they really deeply are is when we keep interrupting you. Kind of deadly for a guy, huh?
Yeah. That's not fun.
No. It makes it really rough.
Yeah. And frankly, that's back to what I said earlier about how, we like to be cherished and honored. And when you do that, it feels like that you're cutting yourself at the knees. So we don't feel respected, and that's not fun.
We interrupt and tell you you're wrong. We interrupt and tell you we're right. We interrupt and say, that's not what I meant. That's not what I was asking. Let the guy finish his answer. Because I'll tell you, every woman doesn't like it either. We complain that you want to interrupt us and fix something when can he just listen to my feelings? I want him to just listen to my feelings. Why does he keep interrupting me? It's the pot calling the kettle black at this particular moment. And I'm going to say that out loud as a woman who's now doesn't do that most of the time. I know that I do. And then I stop and say, I'm sorry, please go on. Because it's a girl thing. It's such a girl thing. It is so ingrained, Barry. It's really a challenge to get over it.
But the thing about that is that it's always practice. It's always getting better. It's always developing and didn't do as bad as catching it quicker than they did last time. That's the win.
I do. I go to my little recovery meeting and go, I did better this time. I caught myself really fast. I didn't do it 3 times in a row. And then the time I did it, I caught myself really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So if you women have that problem, or if you men think, wow, I really would like to figure out a way to get to know my partner better, or have my partner know me better, or you've reached a pinnacle in your relationship and you thought, oh, things were going really well, and then this thing came up, Barry and I would be so happy to talk to you about that.
Yes, we would.
We love talking about that. We'll help you through it. So the way to talk to me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. You can scroll to the bottom of my homepage and click on all my social media. That's Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram. You can also go to the middle of that page and look for the What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. It's 10 brief questions about where you are now and where you think you'd like to be once you've gotten over the challenges. And then you schedule a brief complimentary conversation with me. You can also join my website through my webpage. You can also join my email list through my webpage. And you'll get repeats of the podcast and updates about what I'm doing in my business right now. And then you also could send me a personal email, which people are doing more now. They're sending me, I need help with this. So you can send that to Christine@theperfectcatch.com and tell people how to reach you, Barry.
Well, I appreciate that. And definitely in a similar vein, I have a lot of things to offer as well. So if you go to my website, which is my name, which is barryselby.com, on the home screen, the 3 opportunities to connect with me. One at the bottom of the screen, starting from the bottom, working way up, is joining my email list. Just straight sign up there and you get into my email list and you get replaced with this show and other things I talk about and other things I'm offering. You go through the email list there. At the top of the screen, there's an opportunity to sit down for me with a conversation. I usually do a video, so normally I have a Zoom. If you want to do that, but we can also have a phone if that doesn't work for you, so we can work things out. It depends if you're international or local, because that also impacts things as well. But if you go to that link, which is the Let's Chat button at the top of the screen, you'll fill out my calendar, or excuse me, choose a time on my calendar and then fill out the form that goes with it. And I'll get you set up to have a conversation with me about where you are and what's working, what's not, and where you want to go. That's what I'm here to do with you. And then the third thing on the home screen, in the middle of the screen, is the quiz that I created a while ago. You can go directly to it if you go to barryselby.com/quiz, or you can just click the button on the home screen. That is my relationship readiness assessment quiz. That basically is a self-guided questionnaire that you fill out and it's not, there's no right and wrong answers, it's just where you are. So there's a spectrum of choices from, very unlikely to very likely, and you get to choose where you feel on that spectrum for each of the questions. And at the end of that, you'll get a summary and little percentages and a little chart that give you where you are, and an invitation to have a conversation with me, because you might discover this I didn't know that about myself. So then we can reach out and have a conversation. On social media, my social media is my name, Barry Selby, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter and Pinterest, and then on Instagram and on Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. And if you want to send me an email, you can send one at barryselby.com. So it's all my name everywhere, so you can find me that way. Very easy.
You are everywhere, Barry.
Yes, indeed.
And then we're also going to be back here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the times in between. You can also watch our replay on YouTube and Roku and Apple TV. And then if you want to listen to us, how did they do that, Barry?
Well, you can also listen to us on any of your podcast platforms, because the show has now been uploaded to the podcast platforms of your choice. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, or anywhere else they run podcasts. You can listen to us wherever you're going, which is great, because the thing is, when you're a video, you've got to sit and watch it. You don't do it when you're driving, do you? But if you're driving, you can listen to us on the podcast, or if you're riding a bike or going hiking or shopping or going to the gym or any of those things, you can listen to us where you're out and about. So the podcast is a chance to binge everything we've done, because we've got 180 shows up there now, and even more on the video platform because they get uploaded every month. So you can definitely get a lot of content for your bang for your buck, so to speak. So definitely worth your time to listen to us.
And whether you watch us or listen to us, we'd love for you to share and like and give us stars and subscribe and tell your friends about us, and let us know if there's a subject that you'd like us to cover. We'd be so happy to make sure that it's included in a future podcast.
Absolutely. So thank you for being with us, and hope this gave you food for thought. And yes, please let us know what how it landed for you. Love to hear.
We'd love, tell us if anything you said, oh my gosh, I so understood this or didn't understand that. We love comments and questions.
Absolutely. So
And
we'll see you next week.
Next week.
Take care.
Bye.